Hi everyone, my name is Umair Khan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you found the presentations from Dave and Sudeep insightful. In this session, we'll dive a bit deeper into topics that they already covered with some of your peers and experts. The objective is to provide you with the right insights to understand what problems exactly does advanced analytics solve, what are some of the benefits that tools like CS, digital operation intelligence, can solve. So before we go into the discussion, a quick introduction for our speakers. We have a great lineup for you guys. First, I have Donovan Roos. He's Assistant Vice President at US Bank. He drives the DevOps, monitoring, automation, and big data practices across the global technology services group at US Bank. Next to Donovan, we have Deven Shah. He's a Senior Director IT at CA Technologies. He drives various IT operations automation groups. And in the past, he has held various positions at Fortune 100 companies. And last but definitely not the least, we have Kiran Diwakar, who is Senior Director Product Management at CA Technologies. He frequently talks with a lot of customers across the globe, trying to understand their needs, highlighting some of our capabilities, and make sure that our strategies align with those needs. So he has a lot of good information for us to share. So let's dive in. So Donovan, first for you. We did a recent research on advanced analytics, and about 86% of the IT decision makers said they are looking to invest more in advanced analytics over the next 2 years. From your perspective, what are the key drivers and challenges in your organization that you see that's building a case for adopting advanced analytics within IT operation, right? Just give us some background around what type of environments do you manage, what type of teams you have, and then some of the challenges that you're looking to solve.
Sure. Well, we have a large environment. We have over 24,000 devices across 3 data centers, and we have 120 plus business critical applications that we have to monitor and make sure that they are both available and producing at a good performance. So the need to introduce operational intelligence to our production support is critical. As we get into situations where we have low performance or unavailability, that's impacting our revenue directly. And we have issues that prop up that could take anywhere from minutes. You might be able to resolve an issue in 20 minutes. It could take hours, all day long, triage calls with, 20, 30, 40 people sometimes, all looking at all the different pieces of the infrastructure and the application and really taking a kind of a buckshot approach to looking at everything rather than a very decisive, aimed target. So getting down to more specific root cause and getting that from an analytical approach is really critical in moving the business forward faster.
Great. And even from your perspective as well, I know a lot of times yes, he is a vendor, but we are a Fortune 1000 company. We have a big environment. Can you relate to some of these challenges? But do tell us about how unique CA's overall environment is as well, right?
Sure. So just like how Donovan mentioned, right, CA's internal IT is also a big organization. It is, we have 6 data centers spread worldwide with 24/7 operations supporting all our 11,000 plus employees. And we have a very hybrid environment. We are in the cloud. We have a big adoption of AWS and Azure as our cloud infrastructure. And our environment is pretty complex too. It means we do have a lot of business critical applications, just like how you mentioned. We have 120 apps. We have about 150 plus apps that are business critical. And definitely we see the similar challenges that you are seeing as well in your environment too, where we have to, whenever there is any outage or anything like that, we are jumping on calls and kind of spending hours and hours trying to just triage those calls, trying to identify the root cause and getting to the actual root of the issue to solve these issues in an appropriate and a timely manner to not impact the business. Yeah. So that's how our environment is, and I think I very well correlate to what Donovan was saying right now.
And cloud makes it more complicated or easier?
Oh, it makes it more complicated because now you have a diverse set of things that you need to look at and measure and kind of when you're looking at a problem, you have to look at so many different sources as well as things that are beyond your control and when you have your infrastructure in the cloud as well, right? So it makes it much more complicated than if you had it on premise.
Yeah. And Kiran, from your perspective, you talk to a lot of customers as well. Anything that these guys missed out? Anything other unique?
Sure. No. So I think while we are talking about advanced analytics and machine learning and a lot of those things, what we have seen over the years is the fundamental thing that many of our customers are still looking at is how do you easily get data across different tools at a central place and align it in a way where you are able to drive insights from that easily, because it's not just getting data into a system but aligning that data to a common data model. So I think that's something which is fundamentally missing in many of the customer sites that you talk to. So that's number one. Number two, one of the other initiatives that most companies are driving. So one is, as Donovan and Deven said, that how do you help the business? But the other initiative that keeps driving most of the IT organizations is year over year, we all know the IT budgets are cut by businesses and organizations. So how do you drive operational excellence? How do you drive efficiency within your organization by leveraging some of these tools? Donovan talked about the war rooms, right? You have 10, 20, 30. I have seen over 75 people on a single war room call, each one trying to give their perspective. So how do you make sure that you minimize that time, because minimizing that time to resolve the problem is money given back to the business? And how do you eventually tell your management, tell your executives that today, if I'm taking 1 hour to solve an incident that comes to a data center, I will cut that by half next year. So being able to leverage some of these analytics related tools to optimize your environment and to make sure you're supporting the business appropriately. Of course, machine learning and predictive analytics is a critical component, but to start with, I'll probably focus on these two, which many customers are still struggling with out there.
Very interesting. I never thought of budget as a possible use case for operational intelligence too. So talking about benefits that you guys mentioned as well. So Donovan, how would you describe some of the benefits? How would you make them more tangible? If someone is looking to adopt an advanced analytics, you are looking into adopting advanced analytics solutions as well. What are some of the tangible benefits you're looking to achieve? Any numbers against them? What KPIs and so on?
Sure. So the first thing really that matters is getting all the white noise out of the system.
Yep.
So many alerts that go off on a monthly basis that aren't really anything that you need to look into detail. But then again, there's a lot of alarms that go off that could be correlated more tightly and allow you to really get down to the true root cause right away. And then it's bringing down your MTTR. The longer you're down, the longer your performance is dragging, the more your customers are impacted. So what can you do to drive the power of your recovery and of your root cause analysis and fix this system faster?
Okay. So, but do you think, what's the potential? Is it like a 50% plus or 60% plus improvement in your mean time to repair, but potential is higher?
Yeah, so I've seen with the manual effort to do correlation and increase the ability to bring all of our intelligence together, a reduction in the MTTR of 50-60%. So with an analytic engine behind that's doing that systematically for you, I imagine that you could increase it 60% or reduce it 60% or better.
Yeah. No, I really liked. I know we had a conversation before over coffee as well, and you mentioned like it's about resolving issues, but also being about proactive a bit, right? And you had a quote around how you want to be minutes, not hours ahead. Hours ahead, with not minutes ahead of a customer issue, right? Would you describe that benefit a bit as well?
Yeah. So as we're looking towards the future and where we need to go across the enterprise, we need to be more proactive in nature on how we treat our technology outages. By the time there's an outage, if we're finding out from the customer, we're finding out and the customer's already impacted, we're already too late. Mm-hmm. So first we need to identify and find that root cause correlation faster. Then we need to find ways to be more predictive about it and get eventually hours ahead of that impact, where we can see the little things that are starting to build up in the system that's going to cause that hours before, so we can troubleshoot and prevent the issue rather than waiting until it happens and resolve it quickly.
Yeah, I think it's a great metric for our audience too. Every time I have a conversation with IT folks, I come up with a new metric. You know, how, like I would ask the audience as well, like how far ahead are you of an issue? Are you 20 minutes, an hour ahead? You should be hours ahead of an issue before your customers ahead, right? That's a key critical KPI too. So coming to that, Deven, I know you guys, when we were developing CS operational intelligence, you know, we have our own IT team. It's pretty large infrastructure. So we have a very interesting hybrid data set points that we can collect from you guys. Yeah. So you gave us some data and we done some analysis. Could you share some results on that and some of the benefits?
Absolutely. So when we were asked for all this information just to kind of help the DOI product to understand and learn better from our own environment, we provided about a sample of around 70,000 plus alerts that came in, and actually we were we were stunned and we were surprised by finding out that around 50 to 55% of them were just noise. They were just false positives that were identified based on the alerts that we were generating in our environment. And that has been one of the key things that we are looking at from our strategy perspective in terms of moving forward. How do we reduce noise in our environment? And also kind of associating it back to our IT strategy, one of the strategic imperatives that we have is around improving operational efficiency. So that ties back very well into our IT strategy, as well as kind of the things that we can do to leverage our environment to make sure we reduce the noise for the business and have the most minimum amount of impact for the business. So that's something that is working, that we are in the works. So we are working through this right now, and of course, having a solution like digital operations intelligence will help us to serve our business better.
Yeah, and you mentioned operation efficiency, and reporting is something IT does a lot too. While operation intelligence, of course, helps you identify issues a lot better, but what about daily activities, right? Daily reporting or something? Will that help and impact that positively too?
Absolutely. It means in every organization, every customers that we have talked to, like there is always this requirement of the management asking for the daily reports. It's not about getting the daily reports, but it's about more how you can proactively look at your data or your environment and be more proactive to make sure that you are stopping the impact even before the business sees it, right? So that's what makes the reporting more effective. Like how much, it's not about whatever happened in the past. I mean, that's all done with, right? What we need to now, we are looking at more is how can we proactively solve the problem before even our business gets impacted. And that's where our focus is, and that's what we are looking to get into now.
Oh, really well said. I think we have a great opportunity at CA as well, that we have customers and we have our own internal team sharing insights and helping us develop products. But Kiran, you talk to a lot of customers too, right? So what other benefits or any stories you can tell from customers?
So I'll pick a couple probably, but I'll just augment first to the points that Deven and Donovan both made. That yes, I think after data aggregation, the key thing is how do you reduce the noise, how do you drive, again I'll mention operational efficiency to move things faster, be proactive, eventually predictive. I'll give an example. One of our customers, a manufacturer out there, what they're trying to do is they are trying to figure out a way where they are able to optimize the maintenance rounds that they do of their point of sale system, and some of their assembly lines out there. For that, it is very critical that you are able to not only get the data from different sources, because a point of sale system, if you pick that, there are multiple components there. It's the data, it's some of the HVAC systems there, heating, cooling, those systems. It is the actual compute data that is getting retrieved from those point of sale system. All those together decide and determine whether a point of sale system in for example in Philadelphia should be addressed first, maintained first as part of the typical cycle, or should we go to New York. So today that level of intelligence is not there. In most cases that we have talked to, customers do that more on a round robin basis, that you send it to every city on a periodic basis. That's not very efficient. So that leads to some outages in some departments or some outlets out there within some cities. So how do you cater to that? So in addition to getting ahead of the outages, in addition to getting ahead of the problems, the key thing is to be able to tie this data together into a relationship and a dependency model, right? Because how do you know that the starting of the point of sale system to get into a maintenance mode has begun? How do you know that? You need to be able to not only get multiple data sources within the system, but know that item number 1 is dependent on item number 2 and item number 2 is dependent on item number 3. So being able to drive that kind of relationship, and based on that, knowing that because item number 1 is running into a problem, I foresee item number 3 will get impacted as well, or the overall service or the point of sale system will run into a problem, is something we are trying to do, and customers are trying to find out from the analytics system as well. So not just the typical noise reduction and root cause analysis, but the ability to identify dependencies, relationships, and then based on that, predicting if an individual element will impact the entire service altogether. Yeah.
No, excellent. I think these are great benefits. So just jumping onto another topic a bit. A lot of our customers tell us, should we build, should we buy? So Donovan, you and I had a good conversation earlier today about why do you think that building might not be the right path to approach?
So there's a necessity to get operational intelligence embedded into the way we do production today. Building internally is a difficult proposition, right? Because now you have to take on top of the responsibilities you have for production, you have to take on the responsibilities of building that analytical build team, that development team, then you have to maintain that product. And outside of my walls, I never achieve scale. So it's always about maintaining our own operational intelligence book of business. And how do you do that effectively and make sure that with the turnover going on in the world and the constant changes in technology at the rate it's changing, keeping up with the capabilities we need to be at. So between the talent and the total cost of ownership, it becomes difficult to own that as kind of a needed piece of our work, but not the core competency I should be focusing on a day-to-day basis, which is really keeping our production systems up and performing and being ahead of the curve on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And keeping up with all those technologies is hard too, right?
Yeah.
You can be expert in all, but you have a day job. So Kiran, you talk to a lot of customers too, right? A lot of times you meet customers who are trying to build or still looking to build. So
I think given this is a new area, I think there is excitement on many customer teams to try to do it by themselves. So I think that typically happens with any new technology, right? I mean, I think it's not an exception. But what you see is most customers, I would say 90-95% customers, while they embark on this, they end up trying to find a partner like CA in this case to try and get that level of expertise. Not just the expertise for identifying what is the right kind of data that needs to go into the system to drive analytics, right? Because analytics, end of the day, is all about data. If you are not sure what is the right kind of data to get the right kind of insight, you are going to do garbage in, garbage out because you don't have the right context, you don't have the right data. So I think that's number one. The other thing is, because these technologies are still evolving, they're still new, it is difficult to keep pace with that, right? So we know of one of our partners in the APJ region who started offering these analytics services to their customers, eventual end customers. They just offered it to 2 customers, and then they realized the pain of the monthly, sometimes bi-weekly drops that these technologies have, because they are updating software, they are adding performance improvements, they are adding security improvements. How do you keep up with that? CA as a vendor, we have been doing that for the last 41 years. We are the experts with that. We are the experts with data. We are the experts with process as well. So the benefit is we give our customers a black box, and that black box delivers analytics and value to customers. I think that, I would say, is the biggest value. Otherwise, it becomes a bit difficult, where a bank in this case might end up hiring a bunch of software engineers just to maintain the analytics platform in itself. So it's possible, it's feasible if you throw in the right people, the right kind of money, but do you want to be in that business? So that's where it would be leading to. Yeah.
And you brought up an interesting point about being a black box, but also delivery model, right? Right now it's like we are offering the solution initially as on-prem, and eventual goal is to have SaaS offering too as well, right? So that kind of takes a lot of pain out
of management as well. You're right, sure.
Management. So coming down to the product a bit as well and CA as well. So Donovan, you have seen various demos, and you given us a lot of feedback on CA's digital operation intelligence. What do you think about the offering so far and the CA strategy in the space? Well, what makes CA stand out?
Yeah, so you're definitely going in the right direction, and the ability to do a lot of the analytical data, ingesting the network, the server, the application performance monitoring, all into one place, where now you can create the right correlations, do some layering even within your single pane of glass. And talking with the development team, I can definitely see that we're headed down a path where we can not only get to the correlation we need to have, but even to that predictive scale in a future place. So it's doing what I kind of had tried to set out with my team to do on our own, bringing in the knowledge, bringing in the experts, bringing in the technology, but maybe getting there further faster.
Yeah. So another interesting thing, like a tool like this, we talked about hours saved, right? So it has a potential of saving a lot of hours for your team, right? You were sharing some rough numbers around how much time you guys on a weekly basis spend on triage calls. So it will help you, trim down those hours spent on different calls, correct?
Yeah, so every week there's a lot of time going into high priority triage calls with the number of applications we have, with the criticality of them and the impact to revenue. When something goes on, we're all on calls, and that call can, like I've said before, take all day sometimes. And being able to get on a call, anecdotally, a lot of applications are dependent on a database. And so sometimes it'll take an hour and a half just to get down to it's a database call.
Yeah,
and then within that, what service in the database is causing that? And all you're seeing is that service failure at the highest level.
Yeah.
If you can get the root cause correlation to where we know it's a database, we know it's this service within the database, and go immediately to that and resolve it right away and in the future predictively, it could save hundreds of hours and thousands of hours a month if you can do that at scale across the infrastructure and the applications that we have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another point I wanted to keep, right? Do you think it will expand you talked about your development organization. Do you think operational intelligence is something that will go beyond traditional operations and into the DevOps boundaries, or developers would be more engaged with you guys on the ops side? Or
Absolutely. At the end of it, it's really about DevOps enablement, right? So bringing the development process closer to operations, shifting left, and getting rid of the bottlenecks. It's all part of the whole. Mm-hmm. And so putting the right tooling in place where we can both identify on the production side things earlier and also be able to create the analytics that move into that continuous improvement development cycle is going to be game-changing in a way.
Yeah. No, great. Thank you so much. It's great to have you as a development partner. So, Deven, what do you like? You're one of our internal customers, and you've been involved. And what's the best thing you like about this offering?
So, in terms of that, I think the ability to bring in all these various data sources into like a single pane of glass means I think that is definitely a game changer, because we have been trying to do this for a while. We actually, as you said, we have been trying it out internally, and like as Kiran, you also said, we have been trying to develop our own stuff, trying to figure it out as to how can we get this insights and how can we get to that next level of maturity in terms of our operations, in terms of our analytics that we are driving, right? So this is definitely, I think, is going to be a game changer where we would be able to kind of identify all these different sources coming in, and the tool helping us to kind of predictively let us know about what are the things that are coming up in terms of outages and the root cause to that. Definitely going to be a big game changer, because as one of the things that I was talking about, right, we have been able to reduce our MTTR from like 12 days to down to about 8.5 days right now for big incidents, right? So and of course, as you mentioned too, means it's constantly changing with budget. Going back to the budget discussion, right? It's constantly getting reduced, right? So we are trying to do more with less.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what every customer is also trying to do, means do more with less. And again, going back to the DevOps world, how do you shift left? How do you optimize your operations and make it like more optimized? I think that's what the key is, and that's what this will help us enable.
Yeah. So just closing on that fact, right? So, Ken, what do you think? What makes CA unique in the market?
Right. So a couple of things, right? So over the last 41 years, we have been in this market. We've had no other agenda other than software, right? The key thing is, as Deven and Donovan said, for operations and business to be successful in today's application economy, you need to be able to get all the constituents of that service, of that business together, along with the context. And that's the key thing that CA has. The context of performance, the context of fault, the context of application network, and now the context of relationships as well, right? Donovan said, everyone tries to understand what is the problem with the database, but more importantly, if the database is having a problem, what is the business that is going to get impacted? So I believe CA has all the right constituents in place to get those relationships, those elements together into a context that can then drive the insights and analytics to be able to do root cause analysis, to be able to reduce MTTR, to help customers with what we call MTTI, mean time to innocence, that it's not this problem, it's that problem on one central place. And eventually, after solving the problem right now, how do you avoid that problem from happening in future, which is where capacity analytics and some of those capabilities come into play as well. So I believe our expertise in this area over 4 decades and the domain expertise that we bring is something that's critical, which is going to give a lot of out-of-box content. That black box is going to be very, very value-adding to most customers. I believe that's where we are looking at a game-changing solution and a value proposition here. Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, and absolutely. And another term that you and I talked about, mean time to insight, right? Being predictive.
Exactly. MTTI has mean time to insight as well. Correct. Yes.
So thank you so much, guys, for your time. I hope the audience found the discussion insightful. I certainly did. I would like to thank our speakers today for their time and energy. I hope all of you were able to get invaluable insights into practical applications of advanced analytics, including how to use machine learning in terms of IT operations, making them better, faster, smarter, like Adish mentioned as well. Once again, thank you for joining and listening. With that, I will hand it over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Umair and panelists. And that brings us to the end of our time for this session. A big thanks to our panelists today. Great information and insights on a really important topic. And thanks especially to all of you who tuned in. Now, just a reminder, for more information on machine learning-driven data analytics and IT operations, check out the resources and links in your player. And with that, on behalf of CA Technologies, this is Jim Malone with IDG saying thanks for watching.